Hello, and welcome to the conversation. I'm your host, Rytis, reaching out to you from the capital of Lithuania, from Vilnius. And halfway across the world, in the city of Angels, Los Angeles, California, is my dear friend Layla. She is a doctor of psychology. She is a professional psychic, medium, and healer. And she is the Lady Reverend Dr. Layla. She is the Psychicology Doctor.
So in light of today's discussion, we're actually going to start mid-session. So it might seem like we cut out a whole chunk, but in fact, we actually just started at one point and just continued. Well, you were talking about trusting the process or believing,
Yes.
and that you've been going through that turmoil.
Yeah.
Right.
So genuinely, I have been curious, like I said, for as long as I've been conscious enough to understand things, how to trust in the process or in something that you do not see, or yet, at least yet, you do not see any proof of progress, or at least some sort of you don't have some sort of a win along the way. What do I mean by that? For me specifically, ever since I was 10, maybe 11, 12 years old, the only thing I ever wanted to do with my life is to be an actor. And I had a very clear goal of just being the best ever. And it was a dream at first. Then when I found out that, you can actually learn to do this, I was like, oh, so I guess I'm doing that. And then I started, and then I, graduated one acting school and then a different acting school. And then I worked as an actor. And then, I was living in New York, pandemic hit, came back home, and it kind of like made me question everything. And I think after a long period of, I can't really say that of like only disappointments, because I was working and, kind of all things considered, kind of, you know, been successful in terms of being able to book work and even get paid, being, non-union and whatever. But when I came back home, this realization hit of, this doesn't seem like a little snag along the way. It seems like something more permanent. This kind of stop in that career pursuit. And then I just kind of started questioning everything, because, when I wasn't working as my intended profession or in it, I was like, who am I and what is happening? And do I even believe in the things that I want to? Because there was also a shift in whenever I would do a production, let's say theater, film, whatever it may be, everyone who's been in this industry or is currently has done anything like that, they know how much BS you have to go through in the entire process before you get to that final result that we all seek. It's the final result, whether it is to be in front of an audience, whether it is to get that final filmed piece in front of an audience. There's a long road you have to take, and there's a lot of nonsense along the way and a lot of bad things you have to stomach. And when you have that goal in mind, that this is what you're meant to do, a lot of those things you just you understand that they're not necessarily something you want to do, but you accept it as part of it, because at the end of it, how the payoff feels. How I was in productions where I was like, just get me on stage in front of people. That will make everything better. And it used to, but then it started to shift. And I, at one point, started not even taking these projects anymore, where I felt like, yes, the payoff will be like it is always, which is awesome for me. But the amount of things that I have to go through is not going to be worth it, or it's just going to outweigh me getting, to do what I love to do. And then I started questioning, is this even what I want to do? And then I've kind of been like wandering at this crossroad of what am I doing? And if I'm not doing this, uh, something that I've spent, goodness, almost 20 years of my life at this
Mhm.
point doing, who even am I? Why don't I believe in this? Do I believe in this? Because when you invest a solid amount of time of your life into something and you don't
Right.
see the results that you want to see, or at
Okay.
least you don't feel like, things that happen show you that, your dream is possible,
Mm.
it becomes very difficult, at least for me personally, to believe that things can work out. And I guess that's
Okay.
my relationship with believing in things that I don't, see some sort of tangible um, wins along the way. So my question is, because I know people do it, people,
Right.
believe
Right.
in things and then they just keep on going until they happen. And that seems to be the recipe, is just being patient and working and working. And, if something's meant to be, it will happen.
Mm.
Yet the more time passes, the more different types of experiences you have, mostly maybe negative in terms of what you expect.
Mm.
That belief kind of like grows smaller and smaller and
Dwindles.
smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
gonna pause you right there only
yeah,
because I want
absolutely.
to be able to keep up from the beginning to the end. Is
Yeah,
that okay with you? Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing with your story, and actually more so what I'm seeing with your story as you're talking about this, is as a child you realize that you had a dream, or that there was this dream, there was a fantasy that could in fact be turned into a reality. And so you were gifted the opportunity, because again, not everybody is gifted this opportunity. That's the reality. We fantasize, we dream about something, and maybe our parents don't let us do it, or whatever the obstacle is. But for you, the dream became a reality, and I know you, so I know you graduated from many prestigious acting schools, and you were in New York and things were going really well. And then the pandemic hit. So this is something outside of your control. And I'm glad we're going there, because it's a very complex discussion and situation. I will try to simplify it. So then you're telling me, um, the pandemic hit, you came back to Lithuania, and your belief that your dreams were going to continue to come true. So the path that you were on, whether it's a dream or not, but the path that you were taking suddenly went in a completely different direction. And
Mhm.
right, so far, okay. And so now you are questioning, um, if this path that you're on is even what you were supposed to be doing to begin with. Am
Mhm.
I so okay? There's two parts here. There's your reality, and then there's just reality in general. So what me on the outside, what I'm experiencing as you tell me your story. And then we have something even higher, which is, what I like to call, like, you know, being connected to God or being connected to the universe. So in your story, something happened where there was a blockage. So you were on a path, you had a vision. So as we talked in the last episode, that little spark, you couldn't even see that 1% when you came back. And so now you're questioning, it's kind of like we'll call it your lighthearted existential crisis, right?
Mhm.
What is your purpose in life now? And I find it interesting because it's not that it's not that acting technically stopped for you. It's that the path that you envisioned for yourself came to a pause, but it was not under your control. It was under what was going on in the world. So the first thing, and of course, if this was an actual therapy session, I wouldn't be saying it so quickly and so abruptly, but we're friends, so I can say it this way. Um, I find it interesting because from my point of view, from the stories that you shared, you actually encountered a lot more success in a different way while being back home, and you've built up other skills. So this might not, and it's allowed you the time to be present and to be here as well. So this might not be exactly where you were planning on being, but and then of course there's the third aspect, which is maybe what you were manifesting for yourself, maybe what the universe actually wanted was to come here. And so this is the part where it gets a little complicated. You're here for a purpose. You are living where you are for a purpose. And right now, what you're looking at is a completely black, dark, existential moment of what do I believe in? What is going on in my life? That type of thing. And so what I want to invite you to do while you're here with me right now is
Okay.
where, even if it's that 1%, where in the space that you are in now, where you live now, the work that you do, what you're moving towards, is there anything that feels good to you? Is there a spark of light? Or is there some kind of light at the end of the tunnel that you are not giving attention to, that as we're talking about, that is coming up for you now?
I don't know about not giving attention to, but
Okay.
there is and has always been uh, a part of my work which I still associate with the greater like acting
Mm-hmm.
thing, but is hosting. And
Mm-hmm.
this it's something that I honestly I don't even consider it to be work because I usually just have fun doing it because it's interaction. It's kind of a similar concept. Instead of like me acting a pre-recorded predetermined situation, I'm in the moment with actual people in front of me, and I get to interact and have fun and hopefully make them uh, or help them have fun as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that I guess I've always kind of had in my back pocket as of like, oh yeah, I can do this, and I do it well and I have fun doing it, but I never considered it like to be like my main focus, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of a similar area in my mind, similar skill sets, but more of something that now thinking about it, even when I was acting in New York, I was veering more towards immersive, kind of like work where you would get to challenge your acting not in a proscenium kind of like a theater space, but where the audience is your partner, which is
Mm-hmm.
something I enjoy. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess that if we're talking something completely unrelated to my profession, golly, nothing comes to mind, to be honest. Not
Okay.
at the moment. Yeah, no, I got nothing.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I noticed a shift in you as you recognized your love and ability for hosting, even though at the end you categorized it as not acting. But you
Hmm.
also mentioned that you have something that is almost, it's not like work because you love it so much that you're capable of doing and that you actually do as a career. Um, so I guess the question here is, what is it about what you're doing in your life right now that is so dissatisfying that you're not even giving yourself that room to look at what your potentials are?
I think the main thing, if I'm being completely honest,
Mm,
is probably just the fact of having spent so much of my life and my time thinking it's going to be one thing
Mhm.
and then having to adapt and shift towards something else.
Okay.
I think that's it.
I'm thinking of how I want to express this because what I noticed in you, um, I guess you could say on a psychic level, was as you talked about hosting and your love for hosting, I actually noticed your heart chakra, and even it was that shoulder. So this shoulder actually opening up. Yeah. So it's not your physical shoulder, but the energy, the
Mhm.
creative energy actually started flowing and opening up because you are focused on something that you really love doing. So can I do an experiment with you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Because I'm not sure that you noticed that. Did you notice that?
The opening, I mean, I guess in a way, because it just talking about it brings me like certain things that I immediately see and envision, and it kind of makes me happy because
Uh-huh.
I see the challenges, and I
Mhm.
see that it's fun to take them on in a way.
Yes. Yes. I'm also noticing this whole thing is clicking with you a little bit more now. So
Mm.
let's do the exercise before I lose
Okay.
the opportunity.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and close your eyes if you feel comfortable.
Hmm.
Okay. And just allow yourself to re-envision your love for hosting, your opportunity, put acting aside, put that outside of the box, outside of where you're sitting. We'll deal with that in a moment. And just being present, just imagining what it's like, maybe noticing being behind your eyelids and just focus your attention behind your eyelids. And then focusing your attention on your breathing. I know I'm moving a little bit fast, but that's okay. Good. And just notice your body. So if you just do like a quick body scan, noticing being behind your eyelids, maybe noticing your ears, your shoulders, your stomach, your chair behind you, the chair and the wall supporting your back and where you're sitting and your weight. So just notice that whole space of yours. And just allow the first reaction that comes up for you when I say that, as you mentioned, you love hosting. It's not even like a job for you. You have this opportunity. It's something you get to do full time. You have quite a few connections where you are, and your business and your work has actually mostly been through word of mouth, which we already discussed before. So put the acting aside. So this has nothing to do with acting. I see that like creeping in. And so just focus specifically on being a host and how much you love interacting with people and how much you love what being a host represents for you and the joy that that brings. And even being able to be present here and now and having a conversation with one of your lovely friends. And just notice what's happening in your body right now. Can you describe that to me?
Um, it's interesting.
Hmm.
It's a mix between like floatiness and tingling, I guess.
Great, great. Where's the tingling?
Currently in my fingers.
Okay, okay. And has there been a time before where the tingling that you experienced tingling in your fingers?
Uh, I guess before I go on stage, whatever, hosting, doing acting, whatever it is.
Mm, okay.
That. sort of a good kind of a jittery energy right before you start.
So what you just I wasn't expecting, but what you just told me right now is you get the same feeling right before you go on stage or right before you go in front of the camera to be a host as you do with acting. And just notice what that's like. And so again, just allow yourself to just take a few deep breaths in, a few deep breaths out. Good. And share with me a little bit about, now let's go ahead and bring the acting in. Tell me what the similarities are between acting and hosting.
I think for me, being on stage in general, and I think that includes acting and hosting, is I feel comfortable and I feel like I can I can kind of do anything and it's all gonna work out.
Mm, okay. And that's with both acting and hosting.
Hmm.
Okay. So originally you mentioned that there was a blockage. So again, if this was a therapy session, it would be done differently. If this was a, you know, like an energy healing session, it would be done differently. But for the sake of right here, right now, um, so again, your blockage was this whole thing happened in the world. I don't have control. I'm moving back home and I'm doing this hosting thing. The blockage was you were not able to connect or put the dots together between hosting and acting. And what you're sharing with me in your own words now is that hosting and acting have a lot of similarities. And now the last thing you said was that everything is going to work out. That is your belief. And that is the path that you're originally on. So why don't we do this? Is there anything connected to hosting that can help continue your path as far as acting? Or could you give yourself, let me rephrase that. Can you give yourself room to update your belief on what you thought acting was supposed to be?
Interesting proposition. Uh, I think I've always had them both in a similar realm. It's just that since hosting wasn't my focus, I I kind of put it to the side more, and I put acting a little bit on a pedestal, I guess.
Mm,
But to answer your question, yes, I think the connections are there, and the joy is different doing those two things, but it's uh it's good in both senses. Also,
okay.
the word confidence comes back to mind.
Okay. So I'm just going to fast forward it a little bit. So I think the confidence that you have in your hosting and all the um again the connections and the word of mouth and everything that's been happening for you out here with hosting um is also now being brought into light with your acting. And is it safe to say that you're on the same path, but the path is now just wider?
Maybe, maybe.
Okay.
Again, cannot definitively say yes yet because I don't know if I if I fully believe it. It's new. It's it's
Right.
there, but
Okay.
it makes sense.
I'll take the maybe And again, because this is not going to be a long session and it's not going to be multiple sessions, but you're welcome to open your eyes. And I'm just going to share technically, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Good, good.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting imagery that was coming to mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before you share the imagery, um, would you say that you were able to see at least one spark of light?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this something that you can at least look at and ponder about and give yourself that room to explore it?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So again, if you were one of my patients or if you were one of my spiritual clients, so just for the sake of the audience, this is what's happening. So I'm actually seeing your ego coming in and saying, no, it has to be acting. And I'm also seeing the resistance in your childhood belief. So it's your previous belief of what acting is and was and what that meant like 20 years ago. And it's changed so much nowadays that between the ego saying that no, you can only be, I'm just going to say maybe being on the red carpet or being an A-list actor. Um, and that's the only way a person can actually be in entertainment versus maybe somebody like Ryan Seacrest, who is not an actor, but he's actually one of the top hosts. And so really giving yourself that room to recognize what we were practicing, which is being aware of your body and what feels good to you so that you can have the belief and you can have the visual and that you can update what you believed in 20 years ago. Because what's happening is there's your unconscious belief of this is what it was, this is what it should be, this is what I'm going towards, and that's not happening anymore. So what happens is our belief of what we thought we were supposed to do or be, or it's not happening as fast as we wanted it. We start losing hope, or we start losing, I think I need another word here, um, maybe losing quote unquote faith, as you
Hmm.
were discussing in the beginning. So again, this is kind of a mix of believing in yourself and finding a way for you to trust yourself on top of trusting the universe. Does that make sense before I continue? Any thoughts, questions, comments, anything?
I think it, yeah, I think I'm good. You please continue. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what happened was the universe had, whether it was man-made or not, or whatever happened, but there was the pandemic that completely changed your life. And so this goes into our thought process. Can we, as people like to say, can we create something sweet out of something bitter?
Hmm.
And or are we rigid and stuck in our ways and our thought process, which many of us are. So it's not just you. I can be very much the same way. It's like, oh, but I thought it was supposed to be this way. And it's, you know, um, that is holding on to a concept that our ego and our old beliefs are wanting to hold on to out of survival, out of it has to be this, it can only be this, and it can't be anything else. What we haven't been raised to do for the most part is if this happens, and then let's say we're all the way over here, where can we recreate and redefine who we are, our identity, our path, our purpose, and still get to what we want? So if I'm going to if I'm going to paint a picture, you had a dream, you executed it, you moved to New York, something bigger happens, flung you back to where you used to live. So you're having a lot of thoughts, memories, recollections of the child that had the dream, that realized it could become a reality, that had the hope. And so your ego, well, I don't want to say your ego, your unconscious, your story, your basically the story that you connected with acting went from child, school, moving forward, New York, pandemic, and then it flung you all the way back to the beginning. So you're kind of stuck in the past. And so what happened here was there's going to be, as the word we used last time, there's going to be rumination, thinking about the past. What if, this should have happened sooner, should have happened faster. That will give us depression. We cannot change the past. So many people talk about the past. As a human being, I understand. And, that's normal for us. So we have the depression, and then we have the fear of the future. What if it's never going to happen? Well, what if I'm on the wrong path? Oh my God. Oh my, even just me talking about it, that's anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we kind of get ourselves out of this? It's find that piece of light and redefine your path. So if that path is dusty, get that metaphorical broom, I don't care if it's like a Dyson broom, if it's a witch's broom, I don't care if it's pine needles, dust the path and redefine your space. Does that make sense?
Yes. And as you were saying it, I was like, yes, how to live between depression and anxiety. Where is past, ruminating on the past, being afraid of what the future holds. I mean, many new things came up to me, and I think maybe even like small revelations of sorts as well. I think I fully understand now the phrase painting yourself into a corner. Because I definitely, as you were saying these things, I felt how I boxed myself in my beliefs of how things should be instead of what I want. And given the current circumstance, how can I navigate my actions and my current reality to get to the point where I need to go?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have to say, I love doing this work with you because you have a lot of insight, and you have enough things to be worked on, which is really fun for me. But you have so much but you have so much insight, and I really appreciate that. It's such a beautiful dance. So I just want to say thank you for being able to share that and being able to be, authentic in sharing this, because I really feel people might hear this and be able to heal themselves as, you're sharing your story.
Thanks. Hopefully, yes. I hope that happens too. Also, thank you for walking me through this uh, uh, dark and scary forest. Sometimes that is my mind. Yeah, I mean, one thing I've been talking a lot about my stuff, but since I'm opening up today, I will share this one more thing, which is acting didn't come easy for me in terms of when I was in acting school the first time round, and then in some of the later years, I was kind of lost because I really wanted it, but I didn't know what I was doing, and most importantly, I didn't really understand what I was doing wrong. That has led me to many many mistakes, almost died. Oh, then that's a different story. Maybe I'll share that one day in a
Story for
different
another time. Yes.
setting.
And
Yeah,
and
story for
and
another
and
time.
we'll have to put a warning label
Yes,
if
yes,
you're sharing a
absolutely. I
story
mean,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's it was, it was kind of, so once I got confident in it, I always said and I felt that people can say things, everyone can look talented in the waiting room. Everyone can, be, and there's even quick little story is, I've been told from people who got into acting schools in the past that
Mhm.
in the good old days, in my parts of the world, they used to plant actors in waiting rooms, where people would audition to get into acting schools. They would plant actual actors there to
Okay.
perform, like, incredible feats of like, being, of plasticity, of like incredible singers, incredible musicians, and whatever, to intimidate the
Oh.
rest of the people who were there, to kind of weed out the ones who I guess didn't want it enough, which is, again, it's a weird thing, but there was a lot of that. So in my mind, when I built up the confidence in my own acting ability, for me, I always treated everyone of like, yeah, well, but meet me on stage, because
Mm.
that's my gladiator's arena, and I am a gladiator, and we'll see what's what. And I really felt that way for many many years. I mean, to a certain degree, I still kind of do, which is, I guess you can call it like arrogant and cocky or whatever. But I truly felt like, we can talk as much as we want,
Mhm.
but when the time comes to actually do it,
Mhm.
I know I can. Can you?
Right.
And that's how I would like actually measure people of, by things that they do, versus hosting was something that, yes, maybe initially it was kind of, scary to do, but
Mhm.
I have never had this feeling of, having to be a fighter, having to do anything. It was, now thinking about it, it was so much more natural and in my skin, that I
Mm.
always kind of felt like, almost like I'm scamming people because this doesn't cost me anything to do, and yet I'm doing it and people seem to appreciate it.
Mhm.
So I guess I was, in a way, in love with the battle of, no recognition in the acting world, or in my own ability, versus something that just came to me easy, because it was like, well, this can't be that easy. If it's easy, then, I guess there's something wrong with it.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
You again said something very insightful. Sorry, in the back of my mind, I just want to hear you say this is Sparta really badly before I go into the
That will be the outro. That will be the outro.
so a little bit of arrogance and cockiness, especially in the entertainment industry when so the entertainment industry is not the top, but it's one of the most competitive spaces. So that's why often we do see the actual, I know you, so you're not arrogant and cocky, but you are confident. And if somebody does challenge you, you're willing to get up and be like, here's my metaphorical sword, you know? um, but it is a field where there's high competition. There's a high amount of having to be perfect, stress, living up to certain expectations. And I do think, and we can talk about that in another time because I know our time is up for today. Um, but you also mentioned something else. So we will also eventually talk about manifestation, um, and your purpose on this planet. So this is more of a spiritual thing. And that feeling that I had you connect with. So it's a type of somatic awareness, your body awareness. Um, we have I feel like I'm going a million miles an hour. But for our next episode, we have chakras that go pretty much down our spine and it connects to our body. And so when your heart, for example, opens up, your heart chakra or your fifth chakra, for example. So you have a lot of creativity here. So when something is on your path and you're meant to do it and it feels good, they say follow your heart, but it's a type of intuition. So it's suddenly your aura within your chakra expands, and then it's like, oh, I can breathe. Oh, this feels good. Oh, now I hear my spirit guides or that inner voice. Or it's, oh, I feel like I'm being guided. I feel like I'm being connected. And then the ego says, but this is so easy. Like, you need to work hard. So that is something that it's a learned behavior. You're taught that you might have to work hard. So I don't know too much about your family history, but I'm just going to assume maybe you had to work, you know, maybe younger than the average person. We won't go there today. But so that's the concept. Maybe your purpose on the planet, when you let go of the ego and the shoulds and the woulds and the the fun in battling things, um, you know, um, nowadays we don't have swords, so we can only go up on stage, right? Meaning I'm hoping you'll say this is Sparta. But so all these things come into play. So the important thing is recognizing your path, how that makes you feel. And in the end, it's, can you allow yourself to be happy where you're at? Or can you at least open up that door? So whether it's easy or not is not the point. The point is does this make you happy? Does it feel good?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that hits. That hits.
Yeah.
Ooh, that hits.
Does it? Where does it hit?
It everywhere. It just it just the thought, the sentiment, and the, I don't know, the idea itself. It's, again, we've talked about this many times, but the more you work with yourself and the more you become aware, sometimes you're like, I don't know. Every answer I get like a million more questions. But it's nice to work through things, um not in your own mind, because that
Right.
can be tricky. Let me tell you, everyone, if you feel like you can't deal with your own mind, I'm right there with you. One of the reasons I started therapy, to be honest. But it's yeah. And the shift in perspective in that question is kind of scary, but scary for the good reason, because you might fear that the answer is yes, I can allow myself that,
Hmm.
and that takes away the fight.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
it takes away
Oh,
the
yeah. Yeah.
mm.
We'll have to find you something else to fight.
Ah, well, yes. Hopefully, in a creative kind of a way.
Sure.
Um,
So before we end it,
mhm.
can you say, this is Sparta?
Yes. So,
Yes. No?
how do you want me to say it? Do you want me to say it like they say it in the movies, or
And no, any way you want to say it.
uh, well, so I will say this, that this is the conversation for tonight that we had. This is the Psychicology Doctor, and this is Sparta.
Okay. All right.